Hello people, so we start as usual on the DXY and we see here we are still range bound. We have to be a bit careful next week. There's an interesting week ahead. We have like what, 4 interest rate decisions next week, so I'm not expecting for price to do too much before we see some news starting on Wednesday. We can see here on the 1 hour time frame that we have fairly nice price action. We did actually come back into this area here, retesting this piece of price action here to the left, and then started to move away. And we can see now here on the 1 hour time frame that we are in a nice bullish continuation here after this first initial impulse. And I'm now looking for the DXY to move higher, at least into these areas. So that might be an area we reach before FOMC next week. But to move further, we definitely need more of a catalyst. On balance overall, therefore, I'm leaning more towards US dollar long plays next week. We move to Euro US dollar. This price action does not look the nicest. We are here on the 4-hour time frame, so it's not clear if it's like long or short. But overall, again, on balance, if I'm leaning more towards US dollar longs, then I'm looking here for a short continuation. We had a few failed structures here. We had here a 1, 2, 3 structure closing this gap here to the left, and then we failed to sell off in this area. Instead, we moved up a bit higher. We have here a more significant area of interest, like this liquidity area, which is basically retesting this whole piece of price action here to the left. There's still a small gap, but we can see here we had a washout in this area. So it's a bit conflicting. So I'd like to see for price to break below, back clearly into structure, this level, and then followed by a bearish continuation on the lower time frame. That would definitely be enough for me to enter a trade to the downside. Australian dollar, US dollar is again interesting price action. We had here this clear liquidity area. We had a gap here. We sold off early in this area. So we left this gap, but we failed to commit here. Instead, price started to be very, very corrective and just slowly creeping back up. So right now I'm looking more for price to really close these gaps here and then breaking back into structure, followed by continuation to the downside. So that would be, we have to have very, very clear price action confirmation, because this squeezes this corrective price action here that can just go on, and then we are tagged in, tagged out multiple times before we get a clear entry. Pound US dollar, similar on the 4-hour time frame. We can see here we are still in a clear range. So we have a clear target here. That's the second target. The first target is here. And we had here very, very corrective price action, and then initially failed to continue. We can see that clearer here on the 1-hour time frame. We had here a double bottom. Then we had a nice structure here, but you can see here it was positioned just slightly above this previous low, and then we had here this whipsaw price action and are now trading below this overall price action. So we do know, we discussed that multiple times, that when we have this, let me clean that up here, when we have this longer corrective price action, that we are basically looking for a flat flag to drop out, and that's what I'm looking for here. I'm looking for a flat flag, so at least a nice second bottom here to then enter a short in this area. If we get something like this structure here in this position, then that would be ideal to enter. Looking here on the 15-minute time frame, you can see what I mean. We had here a 1, a 2, and a 3. This would be an ideal entry. So if we get something structured in this, something like that in this area here, that would be more than enough for me to warrant a short trade. New Zealand dollar, US dollar on the 4-hour time frame. Of course, it's similar to Australian dollar, US dollar. It did a bit more. We did wick to the high here. We had a clear 1, section 2, section 3. We still have a gap to at least this area of interest, or even up here. Again, it's very corrective price action. We need clear confirmation before we enter a trade. I would like to see for price to come back up one more time, preferably tapping this high, turnaround and lower time frame bearish continuation. Euro Canadian is also fairly straightforward right now. So we had this expanding 1, 2, 3 on top of a higher time frame high here to the left. You can see that on the daily or weekly. We had a nice impulse, the first correction, another impulse, and then a fairly large retrace. We have a clear gap to fill, and this is such a nice V-shaped recovery with a very nice reaction here on the 4-hour time frame with follow through that I'm looking for a short continuation. On the 1-hour time frame here, 15 minutes, maybe even better, we can see here we have a small liquidity area. We have a first potential high and first base, and we are looking for a structured flag into this area for a short continuation. On the euro yen or US dollar yen look basically identical. So if you have one of these two pairs on your watch list, is basically the same. We are approaching the previous high in form of a V-shaped recovery, fairly aggressive recovery. So I'm looking for price to take the high, break back in, followed by a lower time frame bearish continuation to enter a short. Pound Australian dollar, on the 4-hour time frame here, we can see we have again corrective price action, and we are looking for the flat flag. We have to be a bit careful here because price tapped this previous area of interest here to the left. But we can see here on the 1-hour time frame, we had a small gap. Price then creeped back up, did not take this liquidity area, but then took the low here to the left and is now stalling in this area. So ideally, we see price being corrective, closing the gap here to enter short in this area. However, if price just breaks above this area and followed by a bullish continuation, then I would change my bias for a long trade above this area. Pound Canadian, we have Canadian interest rate decisions, so we have to be careful. On balance, if I look at this price action and that happened during the week or into London or New York session, that would have been perfect, because here we can see we had a, let's go to the 4-hour time frame. We finished the overall higher time frame structure in form of a 1, 2, 3. We had a nice first impulsive reaction going down to the 1-hour time frame. You can see here we had the first correction, which then failed to break back up. So we had a failed bullish structure here on top. Instead, we then broke below, and we are now trading on this area of interest in form of expanding here a 2-touch structure with a very nice impulse. So having this in a main session would be an ideal entry for a momentum play, a short continuation. So I would just put the entry something like that. But since it's over the weekend and Monday morning, and we first have Asia session and interest rate decisions, so we have to be a bit careful. I would not be surprised if we see price just stalling around, creeping back up into this area to then have a bigger expanding. I would entertain a short if we get some deliberate price action like that. On the other hand, if we see price remaining here during Asia session and then forming something like that, a structured 1-hour flag into New York session on Monday, then that's also okay to warrant a short continuation in this area. New Zealand dollar Canadian looks a bit messy. We do have here this liquidity area. We had 2 gaps here, which then are closed. So that's basically section 1, section 2, and 3, which a nice washout. So on the higher time frame or a bigger picture, we can see here, I'm going to the 4-hour time frame. We are positioned still fairly well. We have nothing here on the left to really worry about. We have a clear range to play, and this is a nice flat flag, which is really the thing we are looking for in this overall corrective price action to then drop out. We now just need an entry confirmation, and here on the 1-hour time frame, ideally, or even 15-minute time frame, ideally we see a structured lower time frame bear flag continuation into these liquidity areas here. We have here 1 or 2, something like that, into then timing end of Asia into London session. That would be ideal to then enter a short continuation. Then we have gold and silver. Gold on the 4-hour time frame, you can see here we had this double top with the V-shaped recovery and a very aggressive sell-off, and are now in the first bigger continuation. And we have a very, very nice piece of price action here. We have a clear liquidity area to worry about. Here we had a gap. We have a second base, first base, second base, and we are now coming back up. So if I get a 4-hour washout candle here, a reversal candle, that's definitely something I would entertain for a short. And the same goes for silver. It's basically this identical picture. We had here the high, the previous all-time high to the left. We then broke out. We have here the first left shoulder, head, right shoulder, and broke back below the all-time highs and are now forming basically the same structure. We have here 1, 2, a potential 3, and 2 bases, fairly structured flag on the 4-hour time frame. So if we get something like that, that would be an ideal entry for a short continuation. I have 11 pairs on watch this week. I rarely have that, and it's because gold and silver are basically identical to trade, and if they break back to the upside, I'm not interested. So it's possible that both of them will be obsolete within Monday already and then off the watch list again. That's why we have a little bit more pairs on watch for the coming week. So that's it. Thanks for watching. See you next week. Bye bye.